The moons of Lunara 9 glowed softly in the night sky, casting a silver light across the tall domes of Nova Haven. The school stood quietly, hidden deep in the Rocky Mountains of the moon. For years, this place had been a safe home for gifted human children. Children with special minds, strange dreams, and a power inside them that no one fully understood. 16-year-old Alex Voss sat on the edge of the observatory roof, staring at the stars. He often came here when he couldn't sleep. The sky calmed him. It reminded him that even in chaos, the universe still moved with quiet order. Below him, the soft hum of Nova Haven drifted through the air, students talking in the hallways, night staff walking their rounds, energy shields buzzing quietly. It was peaceful, too peaceful. Alex's brow tightened. Something felt wrong. He couldn't explain it, but a cold weight pressed against his chest. A feeling. Not fear exactly, more like the silence before a storm. The kind of silence you feel in your bones. He looked out toward the stars. A cluster of lights moved where there should be none. He stood. Down in the student dorms, younger children like Nira, Alex's 10-year-old sister, were getting ready for bed. Teachers were preparing for tomorrow's lessons. No one knew what was coming. The sky suddenly lit up. Boom! A sharp explosion rocked the far dome of the school. Alarms wailed across the base. Lights turned red. The ground shook under Alex's feet. He sprinted down the metal stairs, passing stunned students and teachers running in every direction. Holographic alerts blinked across walls. Emergency, Council strike inbound. Alex stopped in shock. Council, the Galactic Council, that couldn't be right. They had sworn to protect human children. It was the first rule of the galaxy, sacred, unbreakable. But the sound of heavy ships landing outside said otherwise. He rushed into the dorm building. Smoke and lights filled the air. Children were crying. One of the walls had caved in from a blast. "Nira," he shouted. She appeared through the smoke, her cheeks streaked with tears and dust. "Alex." He grabbed her and pulled her close. "Come with me. We're getting out." Around them, a few teachers tried to fight back. Defense drones launched into the sky, but Council battle droids swarmed the area, blasting through doors and windows without mercy. They didn't ask questions. They didn't take prisoners. Alex gathered 4 younger students, Nira, Talon, Mira, and Seth. He remembered the escape drills. They had trained for this, though no one believed they would ever use them. He led them through a narrow hallway behind the mess hall. At the end was a locked panel. Alex placed his hand on the scanner. It blinked green. A secret tunnel opened. "In here, now," he shouted. The kids crawled in behind him. As the door closed, another blast shook the walls. Dust rained down. Nira whimpered. Alex put an arm around her. "It's going to be okay," he whispered, even though he wasn't sure it would be. The tunnel stretched far beneath the surface of Lunara 9. Alex led the group through the dark passage, lit only by his wrist lamp. Each step away from Nova Haven felt like a punch to the chest. When they reached the end, a second scanner opened a small hangar. Inside sat an old training ship, rusty, barely used but ready. Alex helped the children inside. He slid into the pilot's seat and powered up the ship. "Hold on," he said quietly. As they lifted off and soared into the sky, Alex looked down at Nova Haven one last time. Flames danced across the campus. The safe place he had known all his life was gone, burned by the very people who had promised to protect them. His hands shook on the controls. They had broken the rule. They had attacked the children. And now everything had changed. The stars blurred past the ship's window as it jumped into hyperspeed. The hum of the engine was steady, but inside the cabin there was no peace. Alex Voss sat in the pilot's seat, staring blankly at the screen in front of him. His hands rested on the controls, but the ship no longer needed flying. It was on autopilot. They had escaped for now. But Nova Haven was gone. Destroyed. Behind him the younger children sat quietly. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide with fear. Nira sat closest to him, wrapped in a thermal blanket, her arms tucked around her knees. She hadn't said a word since they left the moon. Talon and Seth leaned against each other, trying not to cry. Nera sat near the back, staring out the small window, her hand pressed against the glass as if trying to touch the stars. None of them knew where they were going, and truthfully, neither did Alex. The only thing he knew was that they couldn't go back. Alex stood and walked into the back of the ship. He opened a storage panel and pulled out some ration packs, basic food cubes, tasteless but full of nutrients. "Eat something," he said, handing them out. Nera looked at him. Her voice was small. "Why would they do this, Alex? Why would the council hurt us?" Alex didn't answer right away. He sat beside her. "I don't know," he said softly. "But I'm going to find out. I promise." They spent the next few hours in silence, drifting through space. Alex checked the ship's systems. Fuel was low, but enough for a few more jumps. Supplies were limited. They would need help soon. He pulled up the map on the display. One planet caught his eye. Echor, a mining colony known for being outside council control. Dangerous, but full of people who didn't follow rules. Maybe someone there could help. He set the coordinates and prepared for landing. As they approached Echor, the stars gave way to the dull brown clouds of the rocky planet. The surface was rough and broken, covered in mines and machines. Tall metal towers spat smoke into the sky. It looked nothing like the clean, bright world they had left behind. The ship shook as it entered the atmosphere. "Hold on," Alex called out. They landed hard on a scrap platform near the edge of a mining camp. The ship hissed and creaked as it touched down. Systems blinked red. It might not fly again. Alex opened the hatch. The air outside was hot and smelled like burning metal. The ground was black and dusty. People in worn suits and dirty clothes moved through the camp, most of them ignoring the small group of children stepping out of the broken ship. They walked together, staying close. Alex kept Nera's hand in his. He scanned the crowd, looking for anyone who didn't seem like a threat, or who might listen. That's when he saw her. A tall alien woman with deep green skin and glowing yellow eyes stood near a pile of scrap parts. She watched them closely, her arms crossed. A strange tool was slung over her back, and her clothes were patched and dirty. She looked like she belonged to this place. Alex walked up to her, careful but steady. "We need help," he said. The woman raised an eyebrow. "You're from Nova Haven, aren't you?" Alex froze. "How do you know that?" "I saw the flames on the council broadcast," she replied. "Everyone did. They said it was a rebel camp, said it was dangerous." Alex shook his head. "That's a lie. We were just kids, students." The woman stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Name's Zira," she said. "I fix ships, and I don't trust the council." She looked past him at the other children, then sighed. "Come on, you can't stay out here." She led them into a metal shelter built into the side of a hill. It was dusty and cold inside, but safe. Zira brought out old blankets and let them sit around a dim heater. Once they were settled, Alex told her everything. The attack, the escape, the promise to find out the truth. Zira listened without speaking. Then she stood and picked up a small device. "If you want answers," she said, "you'll need proof. The council hides their lies well, but I know a place, an old relay station deep in the junk fields. Might still have data the council didn't erase." Alex stood. "Can you take us there?" Zira nodded. At first light, he looked back at the children, already asleep around the heater. Their faces were calm now, but the fear still lived behind their eyes. Alex knew this wasn't over. The fire from Nova Haven still burned in his memory, and he was going to carry it until the truth came out. The morning sky above Echor was dim and smoky, barely different from the night. Ash hung in the air like fog, and the wind carried the sharp scent of burning fuel. Deep in the junk fields, hidden beneath the rusted skeletons of broken ships, the old relay station waited, silent, forgotten, and hopefully untouched by the council. Alex Voss stood near the edge of Zira's shelter, tightening the straps on his pack. Behind him, The other children finished eating a quick meal. They were quieter now. Fear had changed into something else, something heavier. They weren't just scared anymore. They were waiting. Zira appeared from her workshop, carrying a small energy rifle and a datapad. Her yellow eyes were focused, her voice steady. The relay's 2 miles north, buried under a crash site. We'll go on foot. Stay close and stay quiet. Alex nodded. He helped Nira secure her boots and made sure the others were ready. Then the group moved out, walking across the dusty plains like shadows through smoke. The junk fields were a graveyard of old war machines, shattered fighters, twisted engines, and collapsed towers. Some of the wrecks were centuries old, their metal bones picked clean by scavengers. Others still hummed with weak power, leaking light from shattered panels. Zira led the way, weaving through narrow paths and low tunnels formed by fallen ships. At one point, she stopped and raised a hand. "Droids," she whispered. They crouched behind a rusted hull as a council patrol drifted by, 2 surveillance drones scanning the field with blue beams. The children held their breath. The drones paused, turned, then moved on. Only when they were out of sight did Zira move again. They reached the relay station an hour later. It was buried beneath a massive cargo freighter, half sunk into the ground. Zira crouched by a sealed hatch and pulled out her tools. "This place used to be part of the outer line," she said, "before the council locked down information flow. If the memory core's still here, it might hold back logs the council forgot to delete." Alex stood beside her. "If we find something, we can show the galaxy what really happened at Nova Haven." Zira glanced at him. "That's the plan." With a hiss, the hatch unlocked. They slipped inside. The air was stale and heavy with dust. Dim emergency lights flickered overhead. Broken screens lined the walls. Old wiring hung like vines from the ceiling. It looked like no one had been here in years. Zira moved fast, her hands flying over the controls. She powered up the central core, and a low hum filled the room. Alex watched the screens light up one by one. "System online," Zira said. "Now let's see what they left behind." Lines of data scrolled across the screen, ship logs, internal messages, intercepted transmissions. Most of it was corrupted. But then something flashed red. "Wait," Zira said, zooming in on a specific file. "This is a secured council broadcast. It was sent hours before the attack on Nova Haven." Alex stepped closer. "What does it say?" Zira opened the file. A hologram flickered to life in the air. Chancellor Voron Tech, speaking coldly to a room of council officials. "The human children must be removed. Their development poses a threat to the stability of the council. Their DNA shows signs of advanced mental evolution. If they reach maturity, they may no longer follow our control. Do what must be done. Burn the school. End the line." The hologram disappeared. Silence filled the room. Alex clenched his fists. The council hadn't been afraid of danger. They were afraid of change, afraid of children growing up with minds too powerful to control. They lied to the whole galaxy. Alex said, "They said we were rebels. They called us dangerous, but we were just kids." Zira copied the files onto her datapad. "This is enough to make people question the council. But we can't just dump it on the network. They'll block it, delete it." Alex thought for a moment. "Then we send it through someone they trust. A neutral planet. One that isn't under the council's thumb." Zira nodded. "Valis. It's a trade hub, neutral zone. People listen there." Alex turned to the others, who had been quietly listening from the back of the room. "We have to go to Valis. We'll show them the truth." Talon, the youngest boy, looked nervous. "What if the council finds us first?" "They will try," Alex said. "But we won't stop." That night, they returned to the shelter. Zira spent hours boosting the old ship's systems, adding encryption to the files. The next morning, they left Eka behind, rising into the stars once more. As they flew toward Valis, Alex stood beside the cockpit window. He wasn't running anymore. He was going to speak, and this time, the whole galaxy would hear him. The planet Valis sparkled like a jewel in the black sea of space. Its tall glass towers reached into the clouds, and ships from every corner of the galaxy flew in and out of its wide orbit ports. Trade, diplomacy, and information flowed freely here. It was one of the few neutral worlds untouched by the tight grip of the Galactic Council. As their ship approached, Alex Voss sat beside Zira in the cockpit, watching the spaceport grow larger on the screen. Behind them, the other children waited quietly. They were nervous but hopeful. This was their chance to speak out, to show the galaxy the truth. Zira had sent a secure message before arrival. The reply came from someone named Kel Torin, a trader and former ambassador known for opposing council control. He had agreed to meet them in a private hangar. The landing was smooth. As the ship touched down, Alex took a deep breath. He had rehearsed what he would say in his mind a dozen times. Now it was real. They stepped out into the clean, bright air of Valis. The hangar was quiet and empty, except for one man waiting by a transport pod. He was tall, with grey hair, sharp eyes, and the calm posture of someone used to politics. "You must be Alex," he said. "I'm Kel Torin. Zira and I go way back." Zira gave him a nod. "We brought the files. This kid's got proof that could shake the council." Kel smiled gently at the children. "You've done something brave. Come, we'll review the files at my center. Then we can send the message across all public networks." Alex followed, relief starting to ease the tension in his chest. For the first time since the attack, it felt like help had arrived, but something felt off. As they moved through the transport tunnel, Alex noticed the guards around Kel's center. They wore plain clothes, but their eyes scanned everything sharply, too sharp. When they reached the main building, Alex's steps slowed. The front door opened without a sound, revealing a white room with glowing lights and sleek metal walls. It felt more like a council facility than a neutral one. Zira stopped. "Kel, why does this place look like a data core?" she asked. Kel didn't answer. Instead, 4 guards stepped into the hallway behind them, weapons raised. "I'm sorry," Kel said. "I never wanted it to go this way, but the council made an offer I couldn't refuse. I don't want trouble, I just want peace." "You lied to us," Alex said, eyes wide. "You said we could speak the truth." "The truth," Kel said quietly, "is dangerous." Zira reached for her rifle, but the guards were faster. In seconds they were surrounded. The children were herded into a secure chamber and locked in. Zira was taken to a different room. Inside the holding room, the walls were cold and smooth. No windows, no screens, only silence. Nira sat beside Alex, tears forming in her eyes. "They're going to send us back to the council, aren't they?" Alex didn't answer. His mind was spinning. How had he trusted the wrong person? How had they been so close and still fallen into a trap? Hours passed, the lights dimmed, the door finally opened, and a tall man stepped inside. Alex's heart dropped. Chancellor Vorantek. He looked just as the hologram had shown him. Sharp features, grey uniform, calm voice. The man who ordered the attack on Nova Haven. So Tech said, looking at Alex, "This is the boy who thought he could outsmart the council." Alex stood slowly. "You killed innocent children. You broke the law." Tech tilted his head. "No law is above peace. Your kind is evolving too quickly. If we don't stop it now, chaos will follow." "We're not a threat," Alex said. "You just want to control everything." Tech stepped closer, his expression cold. "Children with power become adults with rebellion. You would destroy order in the name of freedom. That's not peace. That's war." Alex stared him down. "You're afraid of hope. You're afraid we might grow into something better than you." For the first time, a flicker of emotion crossed Tech's face. He turned and left the room without another word. The door shut again. Alex sat down, breathing hard. His fists were clenched. "We have to get out," he said. "We can't let them hide the truth." Nira nodded. "But how? They took everything." Alex looked up. "Not everything. Zira still has the data pad. If she's alive, she'll find a way." They waited, listening for footsteps, alarms, anything. Then, hours later, the lights flickered, a faint buzz sounded in the wall. The lock clicked, the door creaked open. Zira stood there, bruised but grinning, her rifle slung over her shoulder. "Told you I'd get us out," she whispered. Behind her, alarms were starting to ring. "Let's go," Alex said. "We have one last chance to tell the galaxy." As they ran through the hallway, the sirens screamed louder. They weren't safe yet, but they had a way out, and this time they were going to make sure the whole universe listened. The escape from Keltorin's facility was fast, loud, and full of fire. Sirens blared through the halls as Alex, Voss, Zira, and the other children raced past, stunned guards and security drones. The neutral zone of Valis was no longer safe. Kel's betrayal had turned it into a trap, and the only way out was through. Zira led the way, her rifle firing short bursts to disable cameras and lock controls. Smoke drifted from the walls where she'd rigged the lights to short-circuit. The children followed closely, sticking to the shadows, their hearts pounding with fear and hope. They reached a side corridor that led to a maintenance lift. Zira tapped on the control panel, rerouting power from the main grid. "This lift goes to the top tower," she said. "It's a council news relay point. If we can reach the console, we can send your files galaxy-wide, live." Alex's eyes lit up. "Then people will see the truth." "Everyone," she nodded. "But we'll only have one shot. Once the council picks up the signal, they'll shut it down." The lift doors opened. They stepped inside and began the climb. As they rose, Alex tightened his grip on the small drive containing the files from Echor, the recordings, the Chancellor's orders, the hidden proof that the attack on Nova Haven was no accident. They reached the top floor, a bright circular room filled with screens, projectors, and a large central terminal. Council logos glowed softly across the glass walls. A single technician looked up, startled, and raised his hands. "I don't want trouble," he stammered. "Then move," Zira said calmly. He stepped back. Alex rushed to the terminal. The interface looked complex, but he remembered enough from Nova Haven's lessons to understand the basics. He inserted the drive, the files loaded, the screens flickered. A countdown began, broadcasting to all open channels. 30 seconds. Below them, alarms howled louder. Security teams were on their way. The door wouldn't hold long. Alex looked at the children. "This is our moment. We tell our story, not theirs." The broadcast began. Across thousands of worlds, the screen flickered in cities, spaceports, and homes. People paused to watch. Council feeds cut off suddenly. The emergency signal took over, and Alex's voice filled the galaxy. "My name is Alex Voss. I was a student at Nova Haven. The Galactic Council said we were rebels. They said we were dangerous. That's a lie." A video played of the Council attack, ships descending, fires swallowing the school, children running for their lives. They broke their own law, the first rule of the galaxy: never harm human children. They destroyed our school. They tried to erase us. The next clip showed the secret recording, Chancellor Voran Tech giving the order. "We have proof," Alex continued. "They feared us because our DNA could change the future. Not because we were a threat, but because we could become something they can't control." All across the galaxy, people watched in silence. On desert colonies and crowded space stations, on quiet planets and busy trade routes, the truth spread like wildfire. In the control room, the door burst open. Council soldiers stormed in, but it was too late. The broadcast had already gone out. Zira stood in front of the children, weapon raised, daring anyone to come closer. But then the commander's comms device crackled. "Stand down," a voice ordered. "Council command is in chaos. Orders are changing. Let them go." The soldiers hesitated, confused. Outside, the people of Valis gathered in protest. They had seen the truth. Across other planets, messages poured in, support, outrage, demands for justice. The council was falling apart. Later that night, as Alex and the others sat in a safe zone high above the city, he stared at the sky. "I think we did it," Nira whispered beside him. Alex nodded slowly. "We showed them who we are, not what they said we were." Zira sat nearby, fixing her weapon and watching the news stream. "It's not over yet, but you've lit a fire they can't put out." Alex smiled for the first time in days. They had lost their home, but they had found their voice. Days passed, then weeks. The galaxy changed. News of the broadcast spread faster than anyone expected. World after world cut ties with the Galactic Council. Protests erupted on space stations, colony ships, and planets far and wide. Council officials who had supported the attack were arrested, questioned, and removed from power. The Chancellor, Varan Tech, disappeared. Some said he fled to a hidden station in the outer rings. Others believed he had been quietly imprisoned by his own advisors, who now scrambled to restore the Council's broken image. But it was too late. The truth had already taken root. And among the stars, the name Alex Voss was no longer just a name. It had become a symbol, a voice for the young, a reminder that no one, not even the most powerful, was above justice. But for Alex, fame meant little. All he wanted was home. Now standing at the edge of a rocky cliff on Lunara 9, Alex looked down at the place where Nova Haven once stood. It had been reduced to rubble, ash, twisted metal, and shattered glass. But the land was not silent anymore. Machines buzzed. Workers moved back and forth. Aliens and humans worked side by side, rebuilding. Ships landed every day, bringing supplies and volunteers. The new Nova Haven was rising from the ashes. This time it would not be hidden. It would welcome all. Children of all worlds, human and alien, would study together, learn together, grow together. No more secrets, no more fear. Zira walked up beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon. She wore a new utility belt and a simple metal pin on her chest, a flame inside a circle, the mark of the new alliance formed after the Council's fall. "They're working fast," she said. "I didn't think it would happen this soon." Alex nodded. "Neither did I. But people wanted something to believe in, something to build, not just tear down." He looked toward a group of children playing in the grass. His sister Nera was among them, laughing as she floated a small ball in the air with her mind. Her powers had grown stronger since the attack, and so had her smile. Zira crossed her arms. "The new law passed this morning. It's official." Alex turned to her. "What law?" Zira smiled slightly. "Protect the children of all worlds." Alex felt a warmth in his chest. Not pride, exactly. Something deeper. A sense that all the fear, the pain, the running, had meant something, had changed something. He walked down the path toward the main building. It was still under construction, but its shape was familiar. Tall curved walls, clear windows, a wide dome at the center. It looked almost like the old Nova Haven, but better, more open, more hopeful. Inside, architects and teachers were setting up classrooms. Advanced tech lined the walls, safe, strong, designed for learning and growth. Across one panel, a quote was engraved in simple letters: "Truth belongs to the brave." Alex Voss. He paused when he saw it. A small moment, but it meant everything. Outside, the sky was brighter than it had been in years. Ships passed gently through the clouds, their engines quiet. The air smelled of metal and soil. New beginnings. Zira stepped beside him again. So she asked, "What now?" Alex thought for a moment. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but we'll be ready for it." He turned to the others, his friends, his sister, the children who had followed him through fire and fear. And as the sun rose higher over Lunara 9, Alex Voss stood tall, not as a hero, but as a student, just like before. A little older, a little stronger, and still full of questions, but no longer afraid. Nova Haven had been reborn, and this time the whole galaxy would help protect it.